Hey guys, what's going on? Psycho Dude Horror here, and this is chapter 6 of My Tiny Town Just Got Put on Lockdown. I hope you guys enjoy. If you guys do, leave a like and subscribe, and check out the books on Amazon, and support the original creator, Cryptic on Reddit. And check out the books My Tiny Town Just Got Put on Lockdown and My Tiny Town Just Got Put on Lockdown, Searching for a Way Out on Amazon. So let's get into the story. Daddy, can you open these for me? I awoke to Addie holding a pack of potted donuts in my face she had pulled from the vending machine. I hadn't even realized I had fallen asleep last night, and I missed the slumber having it now fleeting me. Daddy, open this, please, Addie repeated. Okay. Yeah, sure thing, sweetheart, I groggily responded, sitting up and taking the small package from my daughter's tiny hands. I tore the plastic open and handed it back to her. Thank you, Daddy, she said as she sat back down next to Bodhi. She shoved an entire mini donut into her mouth and then gave the following one to Bodhi, whom was all too happy to accept. Once Grace and the girls were settled eating vending machine breakfast, I walked to the back door, removing the barricade, unlocked the door, and prepped my bow before scanning the area. After about 1 minute of listening and looking out the glass, I opened the door, creeping over to the line of dead bodies that the crazed janitor had made. I set the bow down and started checking pockets for keys or weapons. I didn't really think there would be any weapons because I figured the janitor would have already been dead if any of these people did. I did find all sets of keys to the other vehicles parked out front. There were 2 smaller cars and 1 big lifted truck. Sadly, none of them looked at first glance that they had much for supplies. Maybe these people got caught here and killed by the janitor before they knew what was going on. Either way, I still grabbed the keys and planned to search them. Returning outside, I noticed that Grace had already gotten everyone ready to move out to the van. You ready? I packed some of the stuff from the machines in this backpack, and I'm ready to get out of here. All the windows here make me nervous, she said to me, slinging the backpack over her shoulder. Yeah, I got the keys to all the other cars out front. We'll get everyone in the van and I'll do a quick search of all the other vehicles. Then we can make a tree and get the fuck out of here, I say, walking to the front door and moving the barricade. I unlock the door and hold still, looking out to the van and the surrounding area. Seeing no movement, I motioned for Grace and the other girls to go. I grabbed Bodhi's leash, a handful of blankets, and followed them as they rushed to the van. As we get everyone and our supplies inside, I drop the leash. Bodhi watches it hit the ground, then looks back up at me and takes a few steps closer to my side. Surprised that he didn't immediately run off like he would typically. I knew that he understood his job as team member and protector during all of this. I walked around to the back of the van and opened the hatch. Bodhi promptly jumps inside and turns to look back at me as I close it. Once everyone is secured, I make my way to the truck first, searching the bed before checking each of the key sets until I found the right one to unlock the cab. Entering the truck, I do a quick search of the cab as I expected. Besides the various country music CDs, there was nothing of use. Quickly, I stepped back, shut the door quietly, and rushed over to the other 2 vehicles, conveniently parked next to each other. The first I came up to looked just as empty as the truck had been, but I thought to check it anyway. Inside the front of the car, there was a little more than change in the center console and napkins in the glove box. In the back seat sat a children's tablet and a stuffed animal. I knew who this car belonged at the sight of that. I checked the trunk and surprisingly found a gas can that was full. Hell yeah, something useful, I thought to myself, and I set the can on the ground. There was nothing else that was in the trunk. From the last car is when I found the most stuff. It looked like that couple had been on some sort of camping trip, and I acquired 2 sleeping bags, box of Strike Anywhere matches, a few bags of chips, a can of beans, a hatchet, and a big multi-tool type Bowie knife. I also grabbed the marshmallows and chocolate that there was, even though it didn't seem as useful. Little treats are always good though. As I closed the door on the last car, I froze. A booming roar blasted through the air, deep and demonic. It sounded like a bass-boosted version of a roar from a T-Rex in Jurassic Park. I scooped up all my treasures and ran for the van. Ray saw me coming and hit the button to open the back hatch. I threw everything haphazardly into the back, hit the button to close it, and ran for the driver's door. I cracked the door open and jumped inside. Another roar bellowed, filling the sky with noise. As I put the van in reverse, backed out of the spot, Bodie stood on his front paws on the center console and growled out the windshield towards the building. I jammed the van into drive and peeled it to the on-ramp and back into the interstate. "What was that? Did you see it?" Grace yelled out as the tires hit the pavement of the interstate. "No, I didn't see it, and I have no idea what it was, but I'm not really sure I want to find out," I replied, speeding away. Even though the interstate was still barren, I slowed down after about 5 minutes. I didn't want to wreck and kill us all because I was driving too fast and couldn't see through the fog. Not after all we survived through so far. I'm glad I did too, because just as we came within a mile from the city, we began to see vehicles off the side of the road. "This is beginning to feel more and more like a bad idea," Ray said to me after we passed the fifth vehicle on the side of the road. The one had all the windows shattered, and the following we found was crushed. I mean, it was truly crushed. It looked like it had a wrecking ball dropped onto it. We stopped at the first stoplight, not because the light was red, but because we were met with more wrecked cars in the middle of the intersection. Stopping gave us a minute to contemplate an important decision we needed to make. Do we drive around the pileup and deeper into the city? Or do we turn around and head back the other direction? "I don't like this any more than you do, but we are going to need more secure shelter, or at least something at least more sustainable than this bow and the 7 arrows we have left," I finally responded, motioning to the bow sitting next to him. "We don't know how far this goes, and we don't know what we'll run into later, and we sure as hell don't know what's making that roar back at the rest stop." "Ugh, I hate this. You're right, I really don't like this, but it's something we're gonna need to do sooner or later. Right now it seems pretty quiet. There's a gun shop just up the road, then a few grocery stores near it, and Dick's that's relatively close to the area too," she says, shaking her fist in the air. "Exactly. And we could hit all those without having to go very deep in town. Once we do that, then we can make a plan for finding somewhere to settle down and be secure and safe," I say. "Mommy, I want my cup," Addie yells from the back. Grace reaches back and grabs Addie's sippy cup and fills it with apple juice she snagged from the vending machine. Bodie chuffs as Grace hands the cup back to Addie, and I press the gas to move around the wreckage and down the road to the first stop. We're going to begin reading chapter 7 now. So, yeah, if you guys like chapter 6, remember leave a like and subscribe. And remember, stay scary. Day 27, part 2. We decided that our first stop should be the gun shop, thinking that we would obtain from there might help us in other destinations. Our journey to the gun shop was quiet, except for the random mangled cars along the way. We also noticed that lots of storefronts had been smashed in and looked ransacked. As we got closer to the shop, I saw a small group of 3 of the flaming spiders crawling onto the window of one of the stores. Seeing this solidified that there were in fact creatures in the city. How many and which ones I still don't know and don't really want to know. We made it to the gun shop without incident. As we saw in the parking lot, I noticed that the place looked like it had been untouched, meaning one of 2 worrying things. Either nobody else thought to raid it when shit started going down, or someone was already barricaded inside ready to shoot anything that moved. The first option being worrisome because that meant that everything had happened so fast in town that nearly everyone would be dead. The second being worrisome for obvious reasons. I looked at Bodhi before opening the door. He was lying down at Addie's feet, meaning he didn't sense anything of immediate concern. I looked at Grace and took a deep breath. Shutting the door softly behind me, I crept up to the door, placing my hand on the handle. I tried it. It wasn't even locked. Something seemed off. I stood to the side and swung the door open. Just as I thought, a shot rang out, blowing a hole in the door. A few seconds I peeked through the doorway. A string had been tied to the door into a shotgun mounted on a chair as a booby trap. "Hey, is there anyone in here?" I whispered, yelling to the building. No answer. I crept my way inside and soon realized that someone had set up the trap and left, leaving me in an empty building. It was amazing. As I stepped into the main room, I quickly grabbed more arrows and more hunting heads for them. I walk over to the guns and grab a 45 cal pistol, and then I see it. My favorite gun. A Desert Eagle 50 AE, a beautiful 50 cal hand cannon of a pistol. I grab it and as much ammo as I can carry for both guns. Then I turn and from the wall, I grab a 12 gauge pump shotgun and a 308 scoped rifle. I grabbed loads of ammo for those as well, stuffed it onto my backpack, and ran back to the van. As I stepped out to the door, I was met with a horror of one of the spider creatures on the hood of the car, and had Grace and the girls hiding while Bodhi was locked, frozen in the creature's paralyzing gaze. Trying to avoid bringing more of them, I dropped the bag and drew the bow. Quickly, I take aim and release the arrow. I pierce and kill the creature, but in turn also depend it to the windshield as the arrow travels through the back of the creature just below its neck and into the windshield. To grab the arrow back out, I had to have Grace unscrew the head of it and pull it back out. As I pull the arrow, the creature slides down the now broken windshield and onto the ground. I load everything into the back and get in the driver's side. Finally, we pull away from the gun shop and head to one of the grocery stores. We pass more of the critters skittering around various shops and stores along the way, but as we get closer to our destination, there seemed to be very few. This was promising, but I kept in mind that it only took a moment for there to be hordes of them searching for the next meal. Grace and I sat in the van, looking through the broken glass of the windshield. I had a lot more arrows now, a second bow for Grace, and various guns. Knowing that Grace would probably shy away from using the bow, we loaded the 45 and left it in the glove box for her. I reloaded my bow mounted quiver that held a total of 8 arrows, knocked the 9th, looking around the van, and ended up locking eyes with Grace. Without her speaking a word, she told me to be careful. The building didn't look very promising. It had most of its windows smashed in, a parking lot half full of abandoned cars with some of their windows smashed. The small building next to and attached to the grocery store had a giant hole in the front of it, almost like a semi had plowed into it. I cracked the door to the van to nothing but the sizzle of the purple fog. However, as I exit and close the door behind me, I hear screams and screeches in the distance. Well, timer set, I guess, I think to myself, and begin moving around the various vehicles and into the store. I walk in through one of the broken windows instead of the door. The glass crunches beneath my feet as I walk inside. The building is mostly silent, save for some crackled and distorted music coming from the store speakers. Shelves are tipped, leaving products strewn all over the floor, and the smell of rotten food drifts over me from the produce and meat section. I drop my backpack off my shoulder and begin to fill it with canned foods. Nothing super appetizing, but the nutrients will last, which is all we need. I even found a few cans of Spam and all its salty goodness. I hear skittering from the back of the store between the crackles and the music. I throw my backpack over my shoulders and quickly head back to the van. As I get closer to the van, I can hear Bodhi barking inside. Shit, something's wrong. I say under my breath and pick up my pace. When I get within view of the van, I can see two of the flaming spiders crawling and circling it. I break into a dead sprint towards the van, but it's difficult with the backpack full of canned foods. Stopping about 15 feet from the van, I drew my bow and take aim. Just before I release, one of the spiders turns and locks eyes with me, sending its hellish flood of paralyzing torture through my mind and body. A screech rings out from the lurker, sounding much closer than before. Grace sees me frozen and in an agonizing staring contest with one of the creatures. Grabbing the gun from the glove box, jumps from the vehicle, leaving the door open. As she runs around the front of the van, she lifts the gun to shoot the spider to free me from its gaze. The other creature leaps onto Grace, scraping its legs down her back and sinking its mandibles into her thigh before she swings the butt of the handle of the gun, knocking it away. She tries to aim at it, but locks eyes, plunging herself into her own waking nightmare visions. Another screech comes from the lurker. As it gets even closer to where we were, both of us rooted and frozen in time, unable to move from the horrific visions. Bodhi jumps over the center console and darts out the door. Growling, he lunges at the creatures nearest to Grace and lands teeth sinking deep into the spider's neck. Shaking its head violently, his teeth rips through the flesh of the beast, and the motion breaks its neck. Even after it ceased, Bodhi refused to let the creature go. Grace, now free from her trance, ran over to the other spider, and once she came within 5 feet, she raised the gun and point blank put 3 shots into it just to make sure it was dead. I snap out of its mental assault and quickly realize what was happening around me. Just as I release the tension on my bow, a third screech explodes in the air. I am immediately struck to the ground from the side. As I look up, I barely have enough time to dodge my head before the creature's facial flesh straws drive into me, causing a massive feeding needle to strike the floor with immense force. The creature reared back, attempting another attack, but just as it did, Grace took 3 more shots, causing the leopard to step back and shudder. One of the bullets luckily hit it directly in the ribs. As the creature stumbled around, Bodhi came running past Grace and jumped at the lurker. He attempted to bite at it, but missed. The speed and force of Bodhi's impact into the lurker's side knocked it to the ground. As Bodhi backed away from the creature to regroup, Grace stepped forward and put a bullet into the front of the beast's head. Then she screamed out in a mix of pain and anger as she emptied the last 2 bullets into the head. "Bodhi, come! Grace, get in the van! We gotta go now!" I yelled out. We all ran to the van and climbed in. Grace reloaded the gun as I sped off, getting as far from all the noise we just made as I could. We had one last stop to make before we were going to get out of here. Dick's Sporting Goods. Not a typical first stop for gathering supplies, but I knew they would have camping gear, which meant wilderness survival gear. Even though I didn't plan on needing to survive in the wilderness per se, I knew that those kinds of items would be very helpful. Thank you guys for listening to tonight's story. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys did, leave a like and subscribe. Remember to support the original creator, Cryptic Nightmares, on Reddit, and go check out his books on Amazon. They are titled My Tiny Town Just Got Put on Lockdown, and My Tiny Town Just Got Put on Lockdown Searching for a Way Out. I will leave all of that in the description. So I will leave Cryptic Nightmares Reddit in the description, and I will leave both of the books in the description. So again, if you guys did enjoy tonight's story, leave a like and subscribe, and tell me which was the scariest part of the story in the comments. And I shall see you guys in the next story. Stay scary.